You're listening to Dubaieye 103.8. This is your agenda programme. Georgia here with you all the way through until 1. And I mean, this is one of those awesome, intriguing stories that actually Brandy Scott spotted and sent through to me. She was like, this is obviously one for you. And it's talking about animal poo. And I'm so pleased that me and animal poo are a recipe in Brandy Scott's mind. But we are going to talk about a brand new innovative approach to conservation because scientists in the UK exploring how dung can be used to preserve endangered species. They say that the Poo Zoo project, I'm not making this up, could revolutionise genetic rescue efforts, offering a novel tool in the fight against biodiversity loss. Now, much as I might laugh, it is a very serious topic. And to find out more, I'm joined now by Professor Suzannah Williams, who is an expert in reproductive health at Oxford University in the UK. Professor Williams, lovely to have you join us on the line. Thank you very much indeed. What gave you the idea that dung could be useful in conservation?
That's a great question. That's a great opener. So basically, this is a project that we are doing as a team with a US organization called Revive and Restore. And actually, it was Ashley Hutchinson's idea to use poo as a potential source of cells from endangered species. I thought it was a brilliant idea, got on board and went, yes, 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 please, can I do it? So that was where the idea originated.
And then found yourself arm deep. I'm sort of imagining that scene in Jurassic Park where they pull on giant gloves and delve into, I can't remember what the dinosaur was. It had a collar of horns. And,
I know the scene you're talking about.
Yeah. We all know, don't we? So are you extracting anything useful from it? Are you finding cells?
Yeah, so actually it's not quite as unglamorous as you suppose. We've got a partnership with Chester Zoo in the UK, which is a great zoo and does a lot of research as well as having really innovative ideas. And we've got a partner there, one of the research group, Rhiannon. She's actually the one that gets the poo from the animals in the zoo. Okay. We've also got a lady called Janet at Oxford. She gets them from animals within Oxford University. And so we're kind of delivered poo samples rather than having to go and ferret around inside big puddles. But yeah, it was, we're actually having remarkable success. Really early days, very, very early days. But we've so far isolated cells from mouse poo. And also we've isolated cells from elephant poo. So it's very exciting.
Okay, so why not just grab these cells from the creatures themselves? Why search for them in poo?
So that's a really good question. So the question is that what we want to do is be able to collect samples non-invasively. So if you want, for example, to collect animals, tissue from different animals, to be able to have those cells, often you would have to do an anaesthetic. And you'd have to do a cut to be able to collect the cells. And it's actually not allowed in the UK to do that unless it's a domestic species. So for endangered species, they're really hard to get. And imagine, going up to your average elephant or rhino going, oh, excuse me, could I please have a bit of tissue? That'd be very kind of you. It's a really big effort to be able, in the wild anyway, to have to anaesthetize, to dart gun, to get them on the ground, to get a piece of tissue. Whereas if we can collect it non-invasively, so we can actually just collect the poo, and then go, right, is this animal got the right genetics? Has it got us that we could use? Is it a good sample to have? Can we collect these samples without having put any distress on the animal at all? And so then we have the opportunity to collect samples from many, many individuals that would be logistically completely impossible otherwise.
Okay, so amazing idea. Once you've got these live cells, what would you then use them for? Do you just freeze them for posterity, or I can't think of anything else that you would do with them?
So there's three possibilities. No, we're not going to just do it for posterity. No. Yeah. There's three possibilities that are currently really strong on the horizon. One of them, which I mentioned, was about looking at genetics. So, for example, within individual species, they have different genetics, and you need to have genetic diversity within a population to have a robust population. So for that, you want to make sure, for breeding programs, you want to make sure that you don't want to breed brothers and sisters, for example. You want to breed individuals that are as far apart as possible. So you want to know and understand their genetics. So that's one particular sorry, my computer just clicked. That's one particular reason. So that's understand the genetics. The next thing that we can do is there's been a lot of work, and I hope some of your listeners are aware of cloning. So in the States, there's been a lot of work on cloning, for example, a black-footed ferret. So it was very endangered, but they had cells in a freezer from a previous individual, and they were able to use those cells. And what you can do is take a donor egg, and then out of the cell that you've got in the freezer, you can swap the nucleus in. So you take one out, put one in, and then you've got an egg with a whole new set of DNA. And then you can activate it and generate a new individual. And that's what they did with the black-footed ferret. The third one is very, very technically advanced, and we're not there yet. But in mice, so they've done this for mice, they've taken a bit of skin cells from an adult mouse, they made them into stem cells, then they made them and redirected them into eggs and sperm in the lab, and then they made new babies. So they managed to recapitulate and redo the whole creating a new individual from cells. So this is what we're hoping will be there in the future. Now, the group who's doing this is in Japan, and they're working on this technology for rhinos. And so if we have those cells from the different species like elephant and other endangered species, then the possibility will be there in the future, or the hope will be in the future, that we can do that same procedure. And then you can create new individuals. And because they're their eggs and sperm, you can then have sex with the individuals, and they can recombinate and their DNA, and you can get new individuals, which will be unique, which would be fantastic. So those are the three things that we're hoping to do. Some we can do immediately, genetic analysis. The other ones will take a little bit more technology.
I mean, absolutely remarkable, amazing that you can create egg and sperm cells or stem cells now, from normal cells in mice. That's an extraordinary step forward. I mean, obviously a lot of work going into conservation, a lot of work going into preserving species. Why is it so important that this work is being done now in this sort of period of time?
So that's a really good question as well. So one of the things, I mean, as a conservationist, I would love if none of this was needed and the world, we didn't have species going extinct. And I want to say that first of all, that would be if we could make that happen, I'd be a happy lady. We can't. And there are species becoming extinct, and they're threatened by poaching and all sorts of different things, habitat removal, chemicals, pesticides that are really encroaching on things. A lot of amphibians have problems with a fungus that goes around and wipes out populations. So if we can collect these samples, even though we might not have the technologies now to create new individuals, we have the potential for the future. So we need to collect them with the hope and with the belief that at some point in the future we can use them to help conservation efforts.
Really interesting. Oh, wow. Thank you very much indeed. I love our science spots here on the agenda. Thank you very much indeed for joining us on the line. The voice there, Professor Suzannah Williams, an expert in reproductive health at Oxford University and one of the scientists behind the Poo Zoo project. Thank you.
There's more to come on the agenda.
On the UAE's #1 talk radio station, Dubaieye.